Tamara Lich is on trial after she faced, I think, a collective almost 60 days in prison for allegations of misconduct and essentially inciting misconduct. I mean, this is generally unheard of unless you're a political prisoner, like Tamara Lich has been in the Justin Trudeau era of as he reigns over our country of Canada. And so she was really an integral part in sort of the planning and the operation that was taking place on the downtown streets of Ottawa, which included ensuring that there was always a pathway through. So contrary to what the mainstream media told you, that this was an illegal blockade and it was an occupation, the convoy participants always ensured that there was a laneway clear for things like emergency vehicles, police, traffic. Of course, it was an inconvenience. It was a headache, but that was the whole point of this protest, was to bring national attention, international attention to this truly grassroots, largest civil liberties movement in modern history, in my history, after 2 years of being completely silenced and ignored by politicians, right? These were people who were trying to exercise their democratic process throughout the 2 years of the COVID hysteria and were being repeatedly shut out. There weren't the council, you weren't having town council meetings, you weren't having city hall meetings in person. And if you didn't get onto the Zoom link, you couldn't express your opposition to the policies or the implementations that were coming forward because nothing was happening in person. You weren't even at that time allowed to gather in person. And so once the COVID-19 vaccine mandates had come out, people had reached their tipping point, really. And this was a culmination of frustration of everyday Canadians who were being prevented from conducting their jobs, namely the truckers who were being hindered by the cross-border vaccine mandate being implemented by both Joe Biden and Justin Trudeau and their, I would call them, very inept cabinet ministers. And so Tamara Lich, as a result of this ongoing demonstration, was eventually arrested, detained without bail for nearly 60 days. And now she's finally on trial this week. So the trial will run a few days this week. Next week, I think they'll take a week break thereafter. And then it'll be kind of dispersed throughout September and into October as well, kind of 2 to 3 days at a time each week. And so it's kicked off today. We have our videographer, Lincoln J, on the ground with our Ottawa-based freelance reporter, Robert Krajcek. And maybe we'll just show you one of the videos. Lincoln and Robert are both posting on X, formerly known as Twitter. So we have a little clip to share with you, and we can do so right now. Yeah, this is Tamara arriving to the courthouse this morning.
Tamara, how are you feeling today? How are you? Good, thanks.
Ms. Lich, how are you feeling today?
Good, thank you.
It's been a long time coming.
It has.
What?
Careful, guys.
Careful, guys.
You said this trial isn't about relitigating the Freedom Convoy, but about
Tamara, what do you have to say to the supporters out here today?
Good morning.
Tamara, how are you doing?
I'm great.
Long time no see.
How are you?
How are you feeling today, Ms. Lee?
why wasn't this
Thank you.
You're gonna win. How do you expect today will go? Love you, Tamara.
Yes, you can see there that she had a lot of supporters out on the street. We have a written update as well, just kind of a place that will compile all of the tweets and all of the coverage that we're doing. There's both a website for the Democracy Fund, who's crowdfunding Tamara Lich's defense at no cost to her. And you can find that at helptamara.com. And there, if you donate there at the Democracy Fund, you can receive a taxable receipt. So your charitable donation can be claimed with your taxes at the end of the year. And then to support Rebel News' coverage, which is separate from the Democracy Fund, you can do so at tamaratrial.com. So at that website, we've just published an update this morning that, again, compiles sort of the most notable posts on X and the notable coverage that we've done so far. So you have Robert Krajcek live tweeting. The Democracy Fund is also live tweeting the proceedings. And Lincoln J is outside of the courtroom to catch any notable activity that happens outside. It's a nice little website where you can stay up to date with real-time updates. And we also have one here from Tom Marazzo. He's featured out front. So maybe we can just play this quick little clip of Tom Marazzo, who was also part of that organizational structure of the convoy itself, figuring out the logistics and also trying to ensure that it remained peaceful and compliant with passerbys and the ability for people to still move in the downtown core despite the massive amount of trucks and protesters seen in Ottawa at the early 2022.
I'm just here today to support Chris and Tamara's trial. Their lives are about to be turned upside down, and I want to make sure that I'm standing beside my friends who I believe are being persecuted for wrongthink and as political prisoners in this country. As we've seen the whole entire time, they've been treated unfairly. Murderers get better treatment than what they've been getting. So I think this is the place that every Canadian should be that supported the convoy, to be standing here side by side with Chris and Tamara. And that's why I'm here. I'm just here.
What are your thoughts on that, Sid, as you see this situation unfolding and knowing, you were part of the Coutts blockade that happened in Alberta kind of simultaneously?
Yeah, I was present at the Coutts blockade for 16 days. And, it's interesting. I see kind of two sides to this. One is the sense that there's the Freedom Convoy Incorporated, there's Tamara Lich, there's these, organizers, as they've been coined in Ottawa. We didn't have that in Alberta. And for the fact of the matter is the rest of the country didn't have that either. And even within Ottawa, these were, the organizers of a small handful of people. Whereas the Freedom Convoy itself, even as I remember hearing it driving, across the country to get to Ottawa, it was just word of mouth. It was everyday people. It was a movement that was happening. It wasn't necessarily that, we were looking up and seeing Tamara Lich as, the leader of all of us, which is why when it comes to this trial and the legal consequences she's been faced with, one, I think it's important that the people who were there supporting the Freedom Convoy also support her in this fight, because she was the one who they picked off amongst the crowd to send a message to the crowd. But on the other hand, it's unfortunate, to say the least, that this is even happening in the first place. And of course, we've seen other individuals from across the country being detained for extended periods of time like this. It is very punitive, in my opinion. And I believe one of the charges here was mischief, I believe. And we get people all the time, as Tom Marazzo was saying, people that are murderers, people that are violent offenders, people that are rapists, pedophiles, that are being released on bail. And then these individuals, such as Tamara Lich, she spent roughly 60 days behind bars. Much less than some of the other individuals, especially out of Coutts. But regardless, this does really seem like an attack on her as a means of attacking the Freedom Convoy movement, which is why I do think that those who were there supporting the Freedom Convoy should also be there to support her.
Absolutely. Yeah, the injustice there in the inability to fairly enforce the law on individuals really has been highlighted, I think, throughout the COVID hysteria and the COVID narrative, and the Freedom Convoy especially, because you see these repeat offenders just willy-nilly let off on bail more and more. It's happening almost all the time. And yet, if you have somebody who is opposed politically to the regime, which is quite literally what the Justin Trudeau Liberals called themselves, and their heavy-handed COVID response was the regime. Anybody who's opposed to that regime and the necessity or the justification of public health measures, though, like people like Tamara Lich, they were held in jail for nearly 60 days without bail for really, these are petty charges. We have it in the first paragraph, the first sentence of the write-up published this morning. Lich is being charged with mischief, obstructing police, and counseling others to commit mischief and intimidation. Those are her allegations. Of course, these have not been proven in a court of law, so that's what we're seeing happening now is her trial. And these are really concerning. This is really concerning because people who face much more extreme, aggressive, actual violence, right, counseling others to commit mischief, well, that's not even actually committing mischief. And so when we see that these offenders are released willy-nilly on bail all the time throughout Canada, thanks to these decriminalization efforts by the Justin Trudeau Liberals, This is really concerning that someone who simply opposed government overreach and wanted to uphold what we thought we had, which was chartered rights and the freedom to assemble and the freedom to protest, they're treated like they're some sort of hardened criminal. Meanwhile, the hardened criminals get out on bail. This is completely backwards. It's an arbitrary placement of the law. And it really speaks to the political landscape that we face in this country. And I think that that's why this trial is so important and so pivotal, is to see if we actually have, like, if truth and justice will actually prevail, or has it been captured by political science, just like medical science has been captured by political science.
Hey folks, that was a clip from the daily live stream I co-hosted Monday to Thursday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Alberta team takes over on Friday. Please tune in. And by the way, we want to hear your 2 cents worth. If you're able to make a minimal $5 donation, we will read your chat on the air live. Thank you.
Justin Trudeau's new censorship law, Bill C-18. It's a shakedown and a desperate attempt to keep the mainstream media afloat. Many have already lost their ability to access our Facebook and Instagram pages. The blackout will soon affect every user in Canada. We've partnered with Private Internet Access, a VPN provider dedicated to safeguarding digital privacy. For just $2 a month, you can maintain your access to our content across all your devices at piavpn.com/rebelnews.